We were on a reality dating show together, me and my nemesis, when the host asked him what the dumbest thing he'd ever done was. Fell for someone online. Dated for 6 months. I asked her everything, except her gender. As soon as he said it, his fans went silent. I tried my best not to laugh. The host, flustered, tried to change the subject. All right, then what's the thing you regret the most? He suddenly looked right at me. Tony, my biggest regret is not telling you sooner. I don't care if you're a man or a woman. I love you. My name is Tony. I'm an actor. 6 months ago, I was a complete nobody. 6 months later, thanks to my tireless efforts, I'm even more obscure. So, my agent shoved me onto a dating show that everyone else avoids just to fill a male guest spot. I raised my hand to object, but he saw it coming and clasped his hands together, begging. Tony, my man, I'm begging you. Please don't cause any more trouble. This director is the only one who sees something in you. In other words, every other director wants nothing to do with me. That's their loss, I huffed. They don't have good taste. My agent, Joe, shot me a look and muttered, if it wasn't for that accidental-like incident that pissed people off, we wouldn't be scraping the bottom of the barrel for a variety show gig. The memory of that social media slip-up made me feel instantly guilty. I grabbed the pen and signed the contract. Aren't you even gonna read it? Joe asked. What's there to read? I'd do this show even if the devil himself was on it. An hour later, I saw someone who absolutely should not have been there, and I wanted to slap myself for what I just said. This guy was worse than the devil. My car had been rear-ended, and the person who hit me was the last person on earth I wanted to see. When someone got out of the black car in front of us, I immediately pulled my hoodie over my face and played dead. Footsteps approached. A few taps on the window. My ever-helpful citizen of an agent, Joe, rolled it down for me. Damn it, he's getting a pay cut. A low chuckle drifted in on the cold wind, carrying the man's crisp, clean scent. Tony, long time no see. No way, no way. How could he recognize me with my entire head covered? I knew it. I shouldn't have stayed in the car. I should have been hiding underneath it. I pulled down my hood, trying my best to look like I was seeing a stranger. Mr. Liu, what a coincidence. You're here too. The man outside, Luke, was wearing a black trench coat. Standing in the freezing wind, the tips of his nose and ears were slightly red. His eyes, though, were smiling. He was stunningly handsome, like a movie star. Luke was a pillar of the entertainment industry, a man his fans claimed was straighter than a steel beam. But recently, rumors had started to circulate that he was actually into men. At that thought, I pulled my hood back up, leaving only my eyes exposed. The way I looked, like I was terrified of being pounced on, successfully shut him up. A true actor, he kept his composure, just said a quick hello, and left. After his car drove off, I turned to Joe in the front seat. Is he nuts? Are we close? There are so many other guests. Why did he have to come over and talk to me? Does he think his fans haven't cyberbullied me enough? That guy is so petty. Even his heart is small. Wait, unless he's actually into me? Ugh, it's my own fault. This face is just too perfect. It's almost embarrassing. Joe rolled his eyes. You've got a thicker skin than a rhinoceros. Since when are you embarrassed about anything? After getting out of the car, I was mobbed by a pack of reporters. Tony, can you explain why you and Bella were seen at the same mall last month? Are you on this show because Bella is here too? Are you two planning to use this show to announce you're together? Joe was frantically signaling to me. Apparently, this was all pre-arranged with the women's team. A classic PR stunt to stir up gossip. As a seasoned industry vet, I got the message. I gave the reporters a faint smile. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Bella and I are just very good friends. Of course, if something good were to happen, we'd be sure to share the happy news with everyone. It was a non-answer, just enough to get the tabloids buzzing. That first tidbit sent the reporters into a frenzy, all of them shoving their mics toward me. I was trapped in the crowd, unable to move an inch. Suddenly, someone behind me yelled, "Look out!" Something was falling. I didn't even have time to turn. I just saw a shadow rushing down toward my head. In the split second before impact, my mind went completely blank. Then, a hand shot out from the side and yanked me away. A heavy piece of camera equipment crashed to the ground right where I'd been standing. "Tony, are you okay?" It was Luke. We were practically pressed against each other, face to face, zero distance between us. Panicked. "Tage, thanks." I rushed past him into the building and stood blankly in front of the elevator. Luke actually saved me? If I wasn't mistaken, he looked a little worried about me just now. And his hand, when it grabbed mine, was shaking. Thinking about it, I came to one conclusion. Luke really is gay. And this guy has designs on me. Nope. I have to stay away, make him give up hope. What are you thinking about? About how to get Luke to give up? Huh? I whipped my head around in horror. Luke was slowly, meticulously, wiping each of his fingers with a handkerchief. His germophobia was acting up again. He glanced up. "What were you just saying, Tony?" I didn't quite catch that. I agonized over whether he'd actually heard me or not. I took a few steps away from him, backing into a corner, trying to create a safe distance. I looked up at the elevator's security camera. If Luke really tried to force himself on me, and I screamed my head off, would the security room even notice? He gave me a half smile. To his fans, that smile was enchanting. To me, it was a death threat. Nothing. You heard wrong. The second the elevator doors opened, I bolted. After running a good distance, I noticed no one was following me and peeked over my shoulder. The man was still looking in my direction. The corners of his eyes lifted, his gaze dark and intense. His face was so beautiful it was almost androgynous. He hadn't gotten off. Just as the elevator doors were about to close, his pale lips parted and silently formed two words. I flinched, clenched my fists, and sprinted away. And this is a big if, I saw that correctly. I think he said, "Too late." My heart was still racing when my agent found me. "For God's sake, Tony, Luke saved your hideout there. Remember to thank him in front of the cameras later. And while you're at it, apologize for that social media screw-up." Everyone in the industry knew Luke and I didn't get along. His fans would call me short and my fans would fire back that he was lacking. As one of the main parties involved, I got way too into the gossip and accidentally liked one of those posts from my main account. After that, Luke's fans spammed my comments for days, a thread 1,000 replies long, until the man himself stepped in. Me? Am I lacking? If I ever get the chance, I hope to compare notes with Tony. And just like that, a strange new subset of fans was born. Don't get the wrong idea. They weren't shippers. They were more like rival watchers. Whenever Luke or I were rumored to be with a female celebrity, this group would scrutinize the woman from head to toe, as if they wanted to personally march up and ask her if we were any good. My agent, Joe, paced anxiously, muttering to himself, "No, I need to represent the company properly. I wonder what Luke likes. I need to get him a gift." Seeing my dazed expression, he shot me a disappointed look and nudged me with his foot. "I remember you and Luke were at the same school for a few years, right? You must know him." I rolled my eyes. "Please, there were thousands of students. How would I know him? You might as well say we have the same gender." "True. And I remember your grades were just average. No way you'd know someone like Luke." Why did he have to say something so hurtful? He managed to insult me without even complimenting Luke. I've decided. Joe is losing his year-end bonus. Waiting backstage, I tried my best not to look in Luke's direction. His assistant rushed over, holding a roll of gauze. Luke calmly took it. A staff member next to me whispered, "Luke broke his arm a while back during a fall from a wire stunt. He had his cast taken off today just to be here. Such a professional. Tell me about it. This filming location is so remote. There isn't even a hospital nearby. He's just toughing it out. That man always had to put on a brave face. Hey Tony, what are you muttering about over there?" I quickly covered my mouth. Crap, I said that out loud. Luke didn't look my way, but his assistant came over instead. I thought he was here to cause trouble and started scrambling for an excuse. "Tony, could I ask you for a favor? I heard you studied some nursing in the past. Could you help Luke wrap his arm?" My immediate instinct was to refuse, But then I remembered that his injury was partly my fault. When I walked into Luke's dressing room, he was alone. The moment he saw me, a flicker of a smile seemed to cross his eyes, but it vanished quickly. "Tony, could you be gentle?" I couldn't stand the way he was looking at me. My nerves were shot, and my hand holding the bandage was shaking. Luke steadied my hand with his. "What are you so nervous about, Tony? Your hands are freezing." His hand was incredibly handsome, long and slender, and it wrapped completely around my wrist. He wore a simple silver band on his pinky finger. It reminded me of a post I'd seen online. If a man wears a pinky ring, he's probably gay. I struggled slightly. Can you let go of my hand? It's hard to work like this." The man lowered his eyes. He let go. I swear, that was the fastest I've ever done anything in my life. When we got on stage, I saw that Luke and I were seated facing each other, with a small table between us. I finally relaxed a bit, but from the moment we started our introductions, his intense gaze never left me. I was so distracted I didn't even notice the person next to me speaking until a hand covered my balled-up fist. "Tony, what's wrong?" Bella smiled perfectly, keeping a close distance. Ever since we'd starred in a web series together, a group of our shippers had popped up, calling themselves the Bella-Tony ship. My job today was to feed the shippers, interact with her, and promote the show. The cameras had already swiveled our way. Holding on to my professionalism, I dutifully started playing my part. Seeing the great atmosphere, the host asked us to reenact the show's most popular scene, the drunken first kiss. That threw both me and Bella for a loop. Because of the camera angle for that scene, we never actually had to kiss. We just faked it. It was the origin of the ship, so the production company had never revealed the truth. The fans in the audience couldn't hide their excitement and kept urging us on. I steeled myself, forcing myself into character, already planning how to fake the angle for the crowd. Suddenly, Bella grabbed my face, stood on her tiptoes, and planted a kiss on me. When she was done, she tilted her head and smiled playfully. Surprised? I wasn't surprised. I was horrified. Across from me, the man had his arm draped over the back of his chair, his eyes fixed on me, a hint of amusement playing on his lips. I had a feeling that if we were alone, I'd be eaten alive. What could I do? I'd been kissed for real. I had to force a smile. Back in my seat, Bella whispered an explanation. "Sorry, Tony, I didn't have a choice. The fans were watching. You don't mind, do you?" Her words were quick, her tone both sweet and serious. "Besides, you're a guy, you're not losing out. I'm the one at a disadvantage here." Great. Now I was the one being blamed. Turns out creeps come in all genders. I fiddled with the wrinkles on my jacket, muttering, "I'd appreciate it if you'd consult me next time, Miss Bella, instead of doing something like that without my knowledge." She rolled her eyes. "It was just a kiss. Why are you being so petty?" I was speechless with anger. I was so worked up I didn't even notice what part of the show we were on until Luke's unmistakable voice cut through the air. "I think Tony's performance just now was a bit lacking. Why don't I give him a demonstration?" I knew this was bad news. I felt like I was sitting on pins and needles. The host hadn't expected this either, but having Luke, a man hailed for his god-tier acting, give a demonstration was great for ratings. So, without my consent, he agreed. Luke suggested I play the female lead. I laughed, but it was a bitter laugh. "Don't be ridiculous. I'm a guy. How can I play the female lead?" The man had already taken off his jacket, revealing a well-toned physique that was hard to look away from. He had a unique, cool kind of charm. A truly professional actor isn't afraid of a challenge, nor of gender limitations. This is your chance to prove your acting skills. "You son of a bitch. You took all the good lines." "Me? Then I guess I'll just be an unprofessional actor." Of course, I didn't dare say it. Luke extended a hand to me. I hesitated for a moment, then gritted my teeth and went for it. He got into character instantly, slamming me against the wall in a drunken haze. His clean, beautiful hand caressed my face, then gripped my chin, his gaze so intense anyone would melt. "Do you love him, or do you love me?" he said, delivering his line with complete focus. I'm 6 feet tall, but in front of him I felt a head shorter. Plus, this guy was clearly a gym regular. I was completely dwarfed by him. Too close. The man's breath fanned across my face. It was hot, forcing me to turn my head away. Jackson, we already broke up. I bit my lip. This position was so embarrassing. I was starting to regret this. I should have just broken the contract. It would have been better than being pinned against a wall by a man. Luke paused for a microsecond, his eyes darkening. Wait, that's not right. According to the script, he's supposed to start begging and crying for me back. Then the female lead's heart softens, and in the drunken haze, they kiss. I secretly gloated. Looks like Luke's acting skills aren't all that great after all. Before I could get too cocky, my vision went dark as the space between us became even tighter. Luke was going for it. Even Bella let out a surprised gasp. But the truth was, Luke turned my face toward him and simply placed his finger between our lips. We never actually kissed. But no one else could see that. Luke's fans fell silent. My fans fell silent. The Bella-Tony shippers fell silent. The silence in the studio was terrifying. My heart was pounding. I stared dumbly into Luke's eyes, and in them, I saw my own reflection. My face flushed. Our breaths mingled, and the atmosphere began to subtly shift, becoming charged with something intimate. Do you like me? The man lowered his gaze, his eyes landing on my lips. His Adam's apple bobbed. I couldn't speak, because my legs had turned to jelly. I was actually being hit on by a man until my legs gave out. I was actually being hit on by Luke. During the mid-show break, my mind was elsewhere. Joe chose his words carefully. So you and Luke are, damn it. Because of that stunt, everyone now thought I was gay and had a thing with that jerk Luke. Even Bella was giving me a wide berth. I grabbed a throw pillow and hurled it at him, furious. I'm a man. I like women. I'm straight. And I don't know him. Joe, scared of me, ran off. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Tony. It was Luke's voice. I immediately deflated, pulling a pillow over my head and squeaking in a high-pitched voice, "He's not here." Silence. But I could feel the door open and then quickly close again. "I'm sorry, Tony." He crouched down by the sofa and whispered an apology. "If you're really mad, I'll go explain to everyone. I'll say I was harassing you, that you're the victim, that it has nothing to do with you. If you're still not over it, then hit me. Anywhere you want. I won't fight back." What was happening? The same man who was flirting with me on stage was now meekly apologizing. I felt like this was the peak moment of my entire life. But I didn't dare move the pillow to look at him. I just waved my hand, my voice muffled. "It's fine. Just stay away from me from now on." For some reason, after I said that, the whole dressing room seemed to get colder. Luke didn't leave. He pressed his lips together. "Brother, you must still be mad. If you don't forgive me, I'm not leaving." "No, I forgive you." "Then why won't you look at me?" I'd never realized how incredibly persistent this man could be. Today I was learning. Furious, I sat up cross-legged. But when my eyes met his, which were slightly red, the anger fizzled out. He was crouched in front of me, looking up at me, his long, thick eyelashes fluttering. "Brother, your ears are red." He was killing me, and he had to point it out. The man was a siren. I decided to do the world a favor and get rid of this menace. I reached out and wrapped my hands around his neck. But the sofa wasn't big enough for my theatrics. As I fell forward, Luke caught my waist, and we both toppled backward. Thankfully, the floor was covered with a thick rug, so his head was fine. As for me, he'd cushioned my fall, so I was even more fine. I was blushing as I pretended to strangle him, but he just smiled. "Are you shy? Go to hell." "If I'm shy, I'm your grandma." The man nodded. "Okay, grandma." Commotion erupted at the door. Before I could even turn my head, a group of people carrying cameras and microphones burst in. Joe was still enthusiastically pitching me. "Tony is always so dedicated. He even studies during his lunch break, so you've come to interview him at the perfect time." He turned around and even his silver tongue failed him. A chorus of sharp inhales followed. "What are you two doing?" I scrambled off Luke, but in my haste, I must have pressed down too hard on something that hurt him. The man let out a low groan. This was a disaster. I've decided. Luke is now my mortal enemy. He was sent to ruin my life. When the second half of the show started, I began my public revenge. Every word out of my mouth was dripping with sarcasm and passive aggression. Everyone could see it. I hated Luke. The man, however, didn't seem to mind at all. He just smiled faintly. The audience. If these two don't have something going on, I'll eat my own shoes. I was laying it on a bit thick, even attacking the fact that Luke had been famous for so long but had never had a girlfriend. I asked if he was even capable. Even Bella couldn't take it anymore. She nudged me with her elbow. Isn't this flirtatious bickering a bit much? I puffed out my cheeks in frustration. See? When a softie gets angry, people just think you're flirting. The host seized the opportunity. Since we're on the topic of relationships, we have a little QA game. Why don't we start with Luke? Luke gave me a faint look. I glared back. What are you looking at me for? Is there something written on my face? Unbelievable. The host asked, what's the dumbest thing you've ever done? I perked up my ears. Luke thought for a moment. Fell for someone online. Dated for 6 months. I asked her everything, except her gender. I was the first to burst out laughing. Of course, to maintain my image, I turned away to do it. Bella whispered to me, I have a feeling Luke is very interested in you. I puffed out my chest. A guy as handsome as me? Of course he's interested. If you can't beat M, join him. Luke's fans maintained an indescribable silence. Dude, how many more surprises are you going to spring on us today? What they didn't know was the real bombshell was yet to come. The host chuckled nervously and quickly moved on. So, what's the thing you regret the most? Luke suddenly looked right at me. Tony, my biggest regret is not telling you sooner that I love you whether you're a man or a woman. I turned to Stone. Luke's fans. Ugh, you really don't care if we live or die, do you? Bella Tony shippers. I don't think I can ship this anymore. Is my guy the bottom? Good news. I was famous. Bad news. I'd rather be obscure. That night. Shocker. The reason Luke has been single for years is a secret first love. And it's his nemesis, Tony. How did two famous rivals end up being each other's unforgettable first loves? Luke and Tony are a couple. Luke publicly asks for Tony's forgiveness. Joe lit a cigarette, walked over, and patted my shoulder. It's just being gay, man. You should have just told me. It's not like I wouldn't have let you date. It was over. My pristine reputation, destroyed by Luke's big mouth. I lay on my bed, feeling half dead. And as I lay there, I fell asleep. I dreamed of Luke. It involved some things that are hard to describe. Even more ridiculous, I was the one on the bottom. In the dream, I kept trying to top him, but the guy would cry and bite and act like a total puppy dog. In the end, he whispered in my ear, I want to have your baby. I woke up terrified. Absurd. Absolutely absurd. Not only did I dream I was gay, but I dreamed I was with my sworn enemy. And that bastard wanted me to have his baby. In his dreams. But thanks to that dating show, my career was finally starting to pick up. That evening, Joe told me to dress sharp for a high-end jewelry gala. It was basically a sales event, but for a much wealthier clientele who'd drop millions without blinking. But as the night wore on, I could barely keep the smile on my face. Why were they all men? Joe whispered an explanation. Ever since you went viral, a lot of powerful businessmen who already had a thing for your looks showed up. Go get M. Tiger. This is your moment to shine. I looked over at a table of young tycoons and felt like I'd walked into a wolf's den. But hey, money's money. No shame in that. I was charming and articulate, raising my glass to toast each of the big shots. A lot of them were buying. Everything I wore sold out instantly. A young, handsome guy, who looked like some rich family's kid, touched my reddening ear. Spend one night with me, and you'll never have to work this hard again. You can have anything you want. I forced a smile and dodged him. Sorry, I'm not for sale. He sneered. What aren't you selling? Don't pretend. I hate people like you. I started mentally calculating if my savings were enough to cover this guy's medical bills. The next second, I heard a whoosh of air beside me, and the rich kid was on the floor, knocked down by a fist. I turned to see a furious Luke, his aura cold and vicious. What the hell? I had checked the guest list before I came. He wasn't on it. I found out later that Luke wasn't there as a celebrity, he was one of the event organizers. But that's a story for later. All I knew then was that Luke had punched someone, but he was completely unfazed, ordering his bodyguards to throw the guy out without a second thought. He grabbed me and dragged me forcefully to a dressing room. His grip on my wrist was tight, and he walked so fast I could barely keep up. Luke, let go of me. You dragged me in here in front of all those people. What are they going to think? You don't actually like me, do you? He locked the door, pinned me against the wall, and gripped my chin hard. Yes, I like you. You've known all along, haven't you? Why can you smile so happily for them? But you always run away from me. I have more money than all of them. Just smile for me once, and I'll give you anything. This was the first time I'd ever seen Luke like this, out of control, completely irrational. I told him to calm down. The man lowered his head and bit my lip. It was a hard kiss, his hands gripping my shoulders tightly, not letting me move. My mind went completely blank. I even forgot to struggle. I didn't even realize it myself, but my body wasn't rejecting Luke. I don't know how much time passed, but Luke steadied me as I was about to collapse. Tony, do you remember now? I asked blankly, remember what? He gritted his teeth in frustration but then hugged me resignedly. The person I talked about on the show. That was you. When I came out of the dressing room, my legs were so weak I almost couldn't stand. Joe rushed over to support me, his eyes sneaking a peek behind me. Why don't you just go home and rest? I said that didn't seem right, the gala wasn't over. He snorted triumphantly. Thanks to your man, it's already over. He bought out everything you were wearing tonight. Perfect. My brain was a mess, and I couldn't focus on work anyway. After Joe dropped me off at home, I soaked in the bathtub, thinking about the past. I didn't come from a good family. My father was in prison, and my mother was bedridden. So, I'd been paying for my own education since I was a kid. To scrape together enough for tuition, I lied about my age and got a job as a tutor for a wealthy family. That's where I met Luke. Back then, he was in his rebellious phase, only studying subjects he liked. His mom was at her wit's end. She grabbed my hand and said if I could just get Luke's grades to be somewhat balanced across all subjects, she'd give me a huge bonus. I did a quick calculation. That bonus could cover my entire college tuition. So I eagerly accepted the job. But the reality was 100 times harder than I'd imagined. Who would have thought that teenage Luke was stubborn as a mule? He wouldn't respond to kindness or threats. He was cold and barely spoke. I was so frustrated I nearly passed out. The boy would just dangle his headphones in one hand and look at me arrogantly. Save your breath, Mr. Tang. Eventually, I decided to take a different approach and just observe him. He liked playing a certain video game, so I secretly downloaded it and started learning. Once I was past the newbie stage, I added Luke's account. The first thing he sent was, "Sorry, I don't play with girls." Damn it. I hadn't paid attention when I registered, and the system had assigned me a female avatar. He was about to kick me out, so in a panic, I told him I was a small-time streamer with a physical disability, and I wanted to learn the game to earn some extra income. Luke went silent. I thought he'd seen through my lie and was trying to come up with a backup plan. Let's start. What? His mic was on. The sound of his mouse clicking was crisp. Didn't you want to learn? I'll teach you. During that time, I was a diligent tutor by day and his gaming buddy by night, slowly closing the distance between us. Later, he was the one who asked for my number. I registered a new account specifically for this, changing my profile picture and everything to a girl's. To keep the lie going, I actually started streaming no face cam and I used a voice changer. Whenever random viewers would insult me for not showing my face, saying I must be hideous, Luke would always jump in to defend me. I used a half-true version of my life story to get closer to him. Whenever he suggested meeting up, I'd use my insecurity as an excuse to turn him down. I told him I was envious of his able body and that he should study hard and see the world for me. He agreed. From then on, when I came to tutor him during the day, he actually started paying attention. The reason Luke's grades were so skewed was because he was deliberately not trying. So when he actually put his mind to it, it was incredibly easy for him. He aced his final exams, meeting his mother's expectations. My mission was a success. After our last lesson, I wished him a bright future and said goodbye. But the boy suddenly grabbed my hand and said something strange. "Will we see each other again?" I didn't pay much attention to the look on his face back then. I just said if it was meant to be, we would. I'd heard from his mother that he was going to college abroad, so I figured we'd probably never meet again. I got busy with my own studies. It wasn't until much later that I logged back into that fake account and saw a flood of messages from Luke. The messages were pretty mundane, just routine check-ins. "What are you up to? Have you eaten? Why haven't you been streaming? Good morning, good night." For days, it was just him talking to himself. I figured he had helped me out, so I could at least be a normal online friend to him. We kept in touch off and on for about 6 months. I started my freshman year of college, and he was entering a crucial period in his life, so he had less time to message me. I thought that was the end of it. I also realized that Luke really saw me as a girl. He treated me differently. So, after he finished his college entrance exams, I told him we should delete each other. Luke, being the stubborn guy he was, wouldn't accept it and demanded to know why. "Sorry, I lied to you. I'm actually a guy." I was so guilty I couldn't bear to see his reply. I blocked, deleted, and deactivated my account in one go. In my sophomore year, I was in the library when I ran into a group of freshmen moving in, and I saw the last person I ever wanted to see, Luke. He seemed colder, carrying a black suitcase, surrounded by a crowd of pretty upperclassmen. The boy's eyes were empty. He just put on his headphones and strode toward the dorms. I knew it was better not to acknowledge him in any capacity, so I never dared to ask why he was here. In my junior year, my mother needed major surgery. I was desperate for money, so I decided to sell myself. I threw myself into the entertainment industry, signing a 30-year contract with my current company, basically signing away my life. My mother didn't stay with me for much longer, but at least she wasn't in pain when she passed. Later, Luke also entered the entertainment industry. He was a natural, a superstar from his debut, reaching heights I could only dream of. Years had passed since all that, and I was sure he'd pretty much forgotten. The ups and downs of my career made me put the whole thing in the back of my mind. Even after the screw-up with Luke that made us rivals, all I remembered was that the kid had an unforgettable face. I couldn't recall anything else. I never thought Luke would remember all those things so clearly. Back in the dressing room, he told me how he found out that the online liar was me. He was smiling the whole time. "You were always careless. You'd leave your phone unlocked at my house. When you went to the bathroom, I'd send a message to your fake account, and your phone would buzz." At first, I thought it was a coincidence, but I tested it several times. I swallowed nervously. "So you knew I was lying to you from the beginning? Weren't you mad?" He pushed me down onto the sofa, his eyes lowered, his Adam's apple bobbing. I was mad. But then I thought about how you were doing it all to make me study, and I wasn't mad anymore. The reason I was mad was that after you confessed, you didn't even wait to hear what I had to say. You just deleted me and deactivated the account. I didn't dare look at him. I felt a little anxious. The man's voice was tinged with a hidden grievance. "Tony, you're cruel. You deleted me just like that. You threw me away. For all these years, you never once came to explain." I poked his chest. "Come on, we were just online friends. We weren't even dating. Was this guy really that innocent?" A few simple chats were an online romance in his mind? Luke suddenly stopped talking and just looked at me. I was about to say something to break the tension, but he gently rested his head on my chest. "But I was serious. My feelings for you were serious. Wanting to be with you was serious. And wanting to marry you is serious." Something in my heart stirred. I knew it. I was done for. I'd fallen for Luke. I was woken up by a call from Joe. He was yelling, "Luke went public about you." Those words shocked me awake. I shot out of bed and opened social media. The site had crashed. The cause was a post from that man, sent at 5 in the morning. Had he been up all night? I nervously opened it, not seeing the flood of insults and get out of the industry comments I expected. The top comments were almost all congratulatory. Congrats. Congrats. With looks like these, it'd be a crime if they didn't get together. I was the OG shipper for these two, but their relationship was so awkward before, I never dared to say anything. It wasn't easy, but we finally married off our Luke. Quick question, who tops? I knew it. These two had something going on. At that awards ceremony, when they were sitting in the same row, Luke glanced at Tony at least 10 times. Admit it, you've been eyeing him for a while, haven't you? Luke replied to that one. Yeah, I have. For a long time. Finally got him to say yes. I touched my face. It was burning up. Luke took me to meet his parents. I stood at the door, too scared to go in. I mean, it would be perfectly normal for Mr. and Mrs. Liu to not accept this. I was just trying to figure out how to apologize. Luke saw my predicament and put his arm around my shoulder. Don't worry. They won't be like that. Why? You'll see when you go in. The moment I stepped inside, Mrs. Liu enthusiastically grabbed my hand. Oh, Tony, it's been years. You've gotten even more handsome. I'm a huge fan. I can't believe I'm finally meeting you in person. I thought she was joking, until she pulled out stacks and stacks of my posters and old magazines. No wonder Luke had been so confident. I cleared my throat, wanting my voice to be steady, but Mr. Liu nervously told Luke to hurry up and get me some water. You really don't mind? Me and Luke, they both chuckled happily. My son has always been gay. We've known for a long time. What's wrong with him bringing home a boyfriend? He's almost 28. It's about time he found someone. Mrs. Liu squeezed my hand. We just want you two to be happy. Don't worry about what the world thinks. It's not easy to be with the person you love in this life. Cherish it. I turned my head and saw Luke in the kitchen, wearing an apron, walking toward us with a bowl of soothing pear soup. Yes, I had to cherish this. Luke's extra. When I first came out to my parents, they didn't understand. They thought I was just using it as an excuse to be rebellious. That was the worst period of my relationship with them. My mom even hired a tutor for me. He was very good looking and seemed to be around my age, but he insisted he'd already graduated from college. Fine, I'll pretend to believe you for now. The first time I saw Tony, I thought he was a pushover. I figured if I was tough on him for a few days, he'd quit on his own. But I underestimated him. Or rather, I underestimated his desire for money. When I found out he was using a fake account and pretending to be a girl to trick me, I was actually angry. But when I calmed down, I thought he wouldn't have gone to such lengths if he wasn't desperate. In the end, it was for my own good. So I started to put away my rebellious attitude, partly to help him keep his job. I would often get distracted during his lessons and find myself just looking at him. I chalked it up to curiosity. Later, my final exam scores were, as expected, great. He smiled so happily. I didn't know if he was happy about the bonus my mom promised him or genuinely happy about my progress. The moment he said goodbye, I suddenly felt a pang of reluctance, a feeling that he was about to drift far away from me. I grabbed his hand and asked, "Will we see each other again?" He didn't answer my question, just wished me a bright future. I knew then, I had no place in his heart. I wanted him to care about me, to make a little space for me. I started reaching out, trying to get closer. After 6 months, I thought our connection was stable. I never expected him to block me, to vanish completely. Later, I gave up the study abroad plans my parents had made for me and switched my major. I never thought I'd see Tony again. But there he was, on a screen, playing a minor role as the third male lead. He was in an unremarkable role, but in my eyes, he was still shining brightly. After graduation, with my parents' support, I started my journey in the entertainment industry. I wanted to try walking the path Tony had walked. When I first started, I didn't reveal my identity. I drank with so-called clients and schmoozed. I drank until my stomach cramped, until I was throwing up in the bathroom. Tony, so this is how hard it was for you. To make his life a little easier, I secretly arranged for people to give him easier roles and pave the way for him. That time we had that mix-up on social media, when I posted that tweet, I was so nervous I typed and deleted it several times before sending. That was the first time our names were linked together. The day of the dating show, I canceled my other work just to see him, to get a little closer, hoping he would remember me soon. When I saw him get kissed by that actress, for a second, I wanted to stop the show. Later, I deliberately made him come on stage to act with me. At that moment, I really wanted to kiss him. But when I saw the panic in his eyes, I didn't dare. Take it slow, I told myself. On the show, he kept trying to distance himself from me, laughing and joking with the female guests. But he wouldn't even look at me. I was jealous. So jealous I felt like I was going crazy. I revealed a piece of our past for the first time. But I think I scared him. I wanted to apologize, but he wouldn't see me. At the jewelry gala, when I heard that rich kid offer to sponsor him, I couldn't hold back. I knew I couldn't wait any longer. I had to tell him everything, quickly. Thankfully, he doesn't hate me. His body told me that he accepted me. My 29th birthday wish is to be with Tony forever, even to be buried together when we die. I can't live without him. I hope he can't live without me either.